Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Andrews, and today I'm going to be talking to you about practicing the art of self-care. Before we get started, I just want to thank you all for joining us for the Real Voices, Real Choices Virtual Connect. And as we get going on the presentation, I just have a few things for you to keep in mind. Number one, if you want to ask questions, you can put them in the chat. Just be sure to include your email, as we will follow up with your questions by email. We also ask that you like and follow the Missouri Mental Health Foundation on social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages. You can also follow the Real Voices, Real Choices Conference on Facebook. And then 3, we just ask that you stay up to date with us by visiting our website at MissouriMHF.org. So come check out what we've got going on, any upcoming events. Our calendar events are posted so you know what we're up to and where we're at. So today's lineup includes the following topics. We're going to talk about the Missouri Mental Health Foundation, who we are and what we do. We're going to go over what self-care is, the 7 pillars of self-care, dimensions of wellness, self-care and guilt, common self-care myths, and we're going to talk about some self-care practices too. So as we get started, I want to allow you to get to know me. Some of you might be familiar with me. I am Katie Andrews, the Executive Director of the Missouri Mental Health Foundation. I joined the foundation in 2021 as the Associate Director and Marketing Coordinator before I was working at the Department of Mental Health for around 10 years. And so you might have seen us in person at the Real Voices, Real Choices Conference over the last several years. But now I'm working with the foundation. And at the foundation, we try to promote self-care and work-life balance. So just so you all are aware, I wanted you to meet the Missouri Mental Health Foundation team. You've got myself, Tynesha Harden, our Community Engagement Coordinator, and Sheila Clethermes, our Administrative Assistant. Again, you might recognize us if you were at the in-person conference in August. But if you have any questions or you want to reach out to us, please feel free to check out our website. We do have a contact form on there. So who is the Missouri Mental Health Foundation and what do we do? Well, the Department of Mental Health actually has 3 statutory requirements. And so they are to provide treatment services, reduce the prevalence of mental illness, and then serve intellectual disability, developmental disability, and substance use disorder through prevention, and improve the public's understanding of mental health conditions. And so that's how we were formed, is through that statutory requirement to improve the public's understanding. Our job is to educate the public on the significant impact of mental health conditions and just help, reduce the stigma. And so our mission is to raise awareness and public understanding of issues impacting individuals and families living with mental illness, substance use disorder, and/or intellectual or developmental disabilities. So our efforts battle stigma and discrimination. We promote care and treatment, and our goal is to foster inclusion in the community and workforce. So we do that through several events throughout the year, and any educational opportunities that come up. But some of our more notable events are the Director's Creativity Showcase, which you may be familiar with. If not, that is our annual art program where we have folks with intellectual developmental disabilities, mental illnesses, and substance use disorders send in artwork that they have completed. They might send in crafts or photography or a canvas or drawings. You name it, we've seen it, and they are some wonderfully talented pieces. And so if you're one of those folks that submits to that showcase, we thank you so much for your participation. And if you aren't one of those folks and you're interested in learning how, we are gearing up for the 2023 showcase. So please check out our website and learn how to submit your artwork. Please know that there are prizes awarded for artwork placements. Next, we have the Mental Health Champions Award, and that banquet is actually held annually to recognize 3 remarkable individuals who have displayed commitment and resilience to the advocacy of mental health. And so we most recently had our event in May, and we honored 2 years worth of champions due to COVID. But it was a wonderful event where we really get to see and hear from these folks on their stories and how they, improve Missouri's mental health advocacy efforts. We also are gearing up for a speakers bureau and speakers conference. So if you're interested in learning how to tell your story, or you are currently a speaker, maybe a respect speaker, any of that, we are going to be, developing our speakers bureau a little bit more thoroughly, and we'll probably be in touch with you. Feel free to reach out to us first, though. But our speakers bureau includes many different speakers with different topics, sharing their story or talking about mental health awareness. And then our speakers conference is still very early in the works, but we are looking to develop a speakers conference where you can come and learn about how to share your story, how to present, and become a speaker, which kind of segues perfectly into the Respect Institute of Missouri, which is now currently under the Missouri Mental Health Foundation. So Ty, our community engagement coordinator, is the statewide Respect coordinator for the Respect Institute. And so she provides a virtual or in-person training designed to help individuals share their stories. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, please reach out to Tanisha or the foundation's general mailbox, and we'll get you connected. We also co-host the Not My Child documentary, a powerful documentary about, substance use disorder and the potential for fatality when using opioids. We also, go attend exhibits throughout the year at various conferences. Just trying to touch base with people on mental health and provide mental health resources. And then, of course, last but not least, the Real Voices, Real Choices conference we co-host with the Department of Mental Health. So you may recognize us from there, but we'll just keep on moving along. So let's get into what is self-care. Self-care encourages you to maintain a healthy relationship with yourself so that you can actually transmit the good feelings to others. You can't give to others what you don't have. So while some may misconstrue this as selfish, it's far from that. When you pay adequate attention to your well-being, you're not considering your needs alone. You're actually reinvigorating yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for the people around you. And there's a saying that I particularly love that says you can't drink from an empty cup. You must fill your own cup before you can pour into others. So how do we do that? What does self-care mean exactly? So let's get further into the definition and learn a little bit more about self-care. Self-care has actually become a trending topic in the last 7 years, and searches have more than doubled recently. So there are several definitions for self-care. Self-care is, it might be a general term that describes anything you do that is deliberately for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Might be defined as the international practice of taking action to preserve or improve your own health, well-being, and happiness, and in particular during times of stress. But the World Health Organization's official definition is the ability of individuals, families, and communities to promote their own health, prevent disease, maintain health, and to cope with illness and disability with or without the support of a health worker. So what do the 7 pillars of self-care mean? How do they tie into all of this? How do they help? Well, the International Self-Care Foundation provides a comprehensive look at the different pillars of self-care. So they're breaking down self-care into 7 sections that say these are, imperative to practicing appropriate self-care. 1, knowledge and health literacy. 2, mental well-being. 3, physical activity. 4, healthy eating. 5, risk avoidance. 6, good hygiene. And 7, rational use of products and services. So what does that even mean? What does that look like? Well, health and literacy. So what they're saying is that if you practice these 7 tasks of self-care, that you can complete overall wellness, you can achieve overall wellness. So number 1, health literacy includes the capacity of individuals to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services needed to make appropriate health decisions. So staying informed about your medical and health journey. Number 2, mental well-being includes knowing your body mass index, your cholesterol level, your blood pressure, engaging in health screening. And so these aren't the acts of watching cholesterol and eating healthy. These are just knowing these things about yourself. So you have an understanding of your basis. Where am I at physically? Where is my health at? Where is my mental health at? Physical activity includes practicing moderate intensity physical activity, such as walking, cycling, or participating in a sport that you like to do for whatever frequency. Usually it's recommended at 30 minutes a week at least. 30 minutes a day would be better, but whatever frequency you can commit to. Number 4, healthy eating includes, ensuring that you have a nutritious, balanced diet with appropriate levels of calorie intake. So you're watching what you're intaking. Risk avoidance, number 5, or mitigation includes quitting tobacco, limiting alcohol use, getting vaccinated, practicing safe sex, using sunscreen. These are all preventative measures to ensure that you are removing those risks, removing those dangers from your daily living, so that you're really ensuring that you're taking care of yourself. Number 6, good hygiene, pretty self-explanatory. That includes washing your hands regularly, brushing your teeth, ensuring that you're taking a shower or bath or however you want to do that, but ensuring that you're maintaining your physical health as far as hygienically. Number 7 is rational and responsible use of products, services, and diagnostics and medicines, including being aware of the dangers and using responsibly when necessary. So basically, anything that you ingest for, maybe it's a pill that you're taking or an antibiotic, just knowing what you're putting into your body and how that will affect your body is extremely important in the 7 pillars of self-care. And so while this is, a really good comprehensive idea of where to start with self-care, I wouldn't say that this completely covers every aspect of self-care. And we'll get into this a little bit more here in a second. So what are the 8 dimensions of wellness and how do they apply to self-care? The activities that you choose to participate in for self-care should help you achieve balance in different areas of your life to promote your overall wellness. The Substance Abuse Mental Health Administration, SAMHSA, has defined 8 dimensions of wellness to help you focus on optimizing your health: emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, environmental, financial, occupational, and social wellness. So when you're thinking of different self-care activities to try, think about these dimensions in your life and how you can improve them. Self-care should not be something that you force yourself to do. Self-care practices are going to refuel you. They're going to help you to take care of yourself. And then you can support those around you. Then you can focus on your responsibilities and how you interact with your environment, whether it's your social environment, your home environment. But really, it's not just helping you. So let's listen a little bit more about the 8 dimensions of wellness. So what is wellness exactly? How do we define that? We know the definition of self-care. But what is the definition of wellness? Well, wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better physical and mental health outcomes so that instead of just surviving, you are thriving. That sounds great. What does that include? Wellness, the 8 dimensions of wellness starts with physical. So that is acknowledging the importance of physical activity, nutrition, and sleep. Then let's talk about occupational, which is finding personal satisfaction and enrichment in one's work or volunteering even. Spiritual is discovering a sense of purpose and meaning in life. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean religious. It just means, your purpose. What are you here for? How do you define yourself? Social wellness includes developing a sense of belonging, a sense of connection and support with others. Financial includes feeling satisfied with your current and future, financial situation. Emotional is coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships. Environmental, maintaining good health by occupying pleasant, stimulating environments that support your well-being. And lastly, intellectual, which is recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills. So, sounds great, but what does this all mean? Well, people often think about wellness in terms of physical health, so nutrition, exercise, weight management, etc. But it is so much more than that. So when you're thinking of wellness, it needs to be a holistic integration of your physical, your mental, spiritual well-being, fueling the body, engaging the mind, and nurturing the spirit. It should be all these things that are interconnected to form who you are. And so that's why it's really important to consider each dimension of wellness in harmony, as opposed to, singling out, I'm gonna and go join a class, to learn more. That's hitting the intellectual wellness, sure. But if you are, sad or experiencing something, you're likely not going to pick up as much. So all of these dimensions of wellness need to work in harmony together. It's more about living life fully. And, it's a lifestyle and it's a personalized approach to living life in a way that actually allows you to become the best version of yourself. So while the 7 pillars of self-care focus on the medical perspective of, preventing disease and maintaining health, the dimensions of wellness actually provide a more holistic view of the whole person. So the goal is to ensure that each dimension of your person operates as a well-oiled machine. So how do we do that? Well, we'll get into that here shortly, but for now, we'll just kind of talk a little bit more about what self-care is and the benefits of self-care. Self-care actually helps improve your overall health. It helps lower stress, which in turn lowers blood pressure, and you get better sleep. Self-care is actually a self-esteem boost. If you're treating yourself with kindness, you'll actually see yourself in a more positive light. You'll become more outgoing and productive in your work and social life because you feel a little bit better about yourself. Self-care improves focus. The less stress and burned out you feel, the more you can focus on your tasks. And it seems crazy, but by practicing self-care, you can actually improve your productivity. Now, the reason I said it sounds strange is because when you're taking an hour out of your day or 2 hours or 4 hours to go practice self-care, you're losing that time at work. You're losing that time at home, doing chores, whatever it is, your laundry, whatever you might be doing. But when you're taking that time out for yourself and living intentionally and thinking about how to devote some time to filling up your cup, then when you come back to the tasks that you're doing, you come back to your responsibilities, you go back to work, you're actually going to be more recharged and you're going to be able to focus better and become more productive in whatever it is that you're trying to do. Self-care also means setting boundaries. So how many of us have trouble setting boundaries? How many of y'all have trouble saying no when we need to? It is actually time to stop making excuses and postponing taking time for yourself. Make yourself a priority. But I understand that that's not always the case. Family, friends, peers might not understand the importance of self-care yet. And so how many of you all get a side of guilt with your serving of self-care? Raise your hand, do a reaction, comment in the chat box. How many of you actually, feel guilt or shame when you're taking time out for self-care? Well, I know it's hard. I know it's hard for us to take time for ourselves. Do you ever feel like if you take time for yourself that you're being selfish? We tend to put our work, our kids, families, and other responsibilities in front of time for ourselves, putting our me time on the back burner, which can leave us feeling overwhelmed, run down, frazzled, stressed, burnout. And lack of self-care can actually make us ill-equipped to handle life stressors. So not only is it important for us to feel rejuvenated and reinvigorated, but it's important to the people around us because they don't want us to explode on them, So people tend to see self-care as a luxury rather than a priority. There's this notion that, if you take time for yourselves, that you're being selfish or perhaps self-indulgent, and that can be nothing further from the truth. This mentality can contribute to feelings of guilt, and who needs any more of that? So thinking that we need to take a break from our lives to do something that actually makes us feel better can make you feel bad, and it shouldn't. So just to clarify, self-care is not a little treat that we give ourselves every now and then. We're actually talking about developing a sustainable practice to build resilience, health, and well-being. Okay, this is not something that's just a reward for doing well that week. It needs to become a practice. It needs to become a routine. You need to build it into your habit. Make it become a habit in your week, in your work life, in your home life. And I really like this image here. You wouldn't let your phone battery die. So many of us, and our children, of course, are glued to technology. We're glued to our electronics. We have our phone in our hand, and you wouldn't let your phone battery die. Or if you do, you're desperately seeking a charger. So why would you let your internal battery die? Why would you let yourself become run down, become burnout. It is a priority to practice self-care, not a luxury. So let's clear up another common misconception from the get-go here. Self-care is not synonymous with self-indulgence or being selfish. Self-care means taking care of yourself so that you can be healthy, you can be well, you can do your job, you can help and care for others, and you can do all the things that you need to and want to accomplish in a day because you've taken some time out to refocus your energy on what you're doing that day. So this slide says our choice of words may unwittingly cause self-care shame. If we're talking about, I'm going to treat myself, I'm stepping out, I'm indulging myself. We just need to make sure that what we're saying is, I'm going to set some intentional time so that I can refocus my energy, and work on educating your peers and your network about the importance of self-care. It's not just, a piece of chocolate during the workday. That's a great start, but it's not going to cut it for really truly focusing on balancing, your dimensions of wellness and really balancing your feelings and emotions and your mental state. So saying yes to yourself often means saying no to other people. And I know this can be hard. Saying no is very challenging to me myself. I'm a people pleaser. So when somebody wants something, I'm like, I've got that. And I also take on too much, which the foundation, our friends at the foundation, Sheila and Ty, will attest to. I have trouble letting go. And so sometimes it's about saying no to projects or people. And I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to put any work at risk, make sure that you have appropriate support and foundation to be able to do that. But don't be afraid to set boundaries and say no when you're feeling overwhelmed, because there is a sense of taking on too much. So I thought this was really interesting research or statistic out there, but folks on social media, women specifically, use hashtags indulging or splurging on social media. It's fun to use those, like I'm splurging by taking a bath. I'm indulging by eating, a salad out to eat or something, or a piece of chicken or a cheeseburger even. They call it indulging. 80% of posts from women are them just meeting their basic needs, like eating or taking a bath. So while they might have put hashtag indulging around, taking a bath, it's not indulging to meet your basic hygienic needs. That is a basic necessity. It is not splurging to eat food that you need to eat. So, it just seems like when we take the time to do that, it is such a foreign concept to practice self-care that it seems like we're treating ourselves, that we're stepping outside our norm and getting, it's like getting your nails done or something, but really they're just meeting their basic needs to live. So help us normalize these self-care practices and encourage your friends and coworkers and family to take time for themselves too. Debunking some self-care myths. So everyone, let's start with number one. Self-care is only for people struggling with mental health. Well, everyone should practice self-care, especially since too much stress can actually lead to an increased vulnerability for mental health conditions. So obviously that can't be true. And in fact, the opposite is true. If you're not practicing self-care, then you're taking the chance of increasing your risk for some mental health concerns. Number two, self-care means alone time. Self-care can be a group activity. It can be a date. It can occur in any setting that helps you recharge. Social self-care is an important aspect of wellness. By stimulating your social wellness domain, you are actually improving your overall wellness. So clearly doing it alone is not a required effort. Number three, self-care is expensive and are rewards to be earned. Self-care practices are most generally free. They usually can be, and they offer the same amount of serenity and reflection. Taking a walk in nature is absolutely at no cost, except, your feet might hurt if you don't have good shoes, but otherwise you're not spending a dime out of your pocket to go just be one with nature and kind of, rebalance and refocus your energy. Like I said, self-care doesn't have to be expensive, nor does it have to be time consuming. So, I understand that our weeks are busy. Some of us are working 40, 60, some of us aren't working, but we still keep very busy, and that's understandable. But even if you take I mean, you don't have to take an entire day. You don't have to take a full 8 hours, a week to practice self-care. It would be great if you did, but even if you take a mental health day once per month, or you allot 15 minutes per day every week take to practice self-care, you can listen to some songs while you're walking around your work building or your house or your apartment buildings or whatever, but it doesn't have to be time consuming. 15 minutes per week is still not 8 hours, it doesn't add up to 8 hours. So there's many different ways you can practice self-care that can be of little or no cost to you. So here are some practical self-care practices that don't have to break the bank. It comes, self-care can come in many different forms. As long as it feels good and it balances your mental state, use it. So for instance, we have 14% of individuals, this was actually a survey that it's listed by popularity. So, but here are a few of the free or inexpensive self-care practices. So 14% of folks said that exercise was their primary focus for self-care. 18% said journaling, 13% said cooking, 12% said bubble baths, 10% said movies, and then 33% said that sleep is just their form of self-care. Now, remember, sleep is a part of your basic necessities, right? So at some point, if we can make sure that we're maintaining at least 8 hours of sleep per night, really, you don't have to have 8, you can have 6 to 7 hours per sleep per night. But as long as we're doing that, and then we're engaging in other acts of self-care, just make sure that you're meeting your basic needs. So for folks, if they're saying, yeah, I sleep for self-care, but they're only getting 2 hours of sleep per night, then really they're just catching up on overdue sleep that they should have had, throughout the week. So now let's take a look how to put self-care into practice. I'd like to ask you to take a second just in the chat to put some ways that you all practice self-care. That way we can share with each other some methods. Maybe they're quick, maybe they're easy, maybe they're expensive. Either way, we can kind of share some methods of self-care that we can engage in on the daily. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. Thanks to those who responded. So how do we apply those dimensions of wellness that we discussed earlier to self-care practices? So as you can see here, the types of self-care almost match up perfectly with the 8 dimensions of wellness. Why is that? Because in each domain, you can practice self-care. There are different ways you can practice self-care in each wellness domain. So let's talk about some of those areas of self-care. I mean, self-care can look different for everyone, obviously. But to count as self-care, the behavior should promote health and happiness for you, which is, pretty broad understanding of self-care. So I would just suggest that you assess which areas in your life need some attention and self-care. And as your life situation changes, so might your self-care habits. You might likely need to shift those too. So just try to get into a regular routine of practicing self-care. Experts actually recommend starting small rather than tackling the most challenging thing first. Excuse me. Choose one practice each week to weave into your daily routine. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Habits are developed in small steps that can be sustained and have meaning. So, we're not just trying to read 10 books a month. We're going to write down 4 pages in our journal every day. And it's starting to become a more of a chore than a release. And that's the problem. So even when you don't think that you can squeeze one more thing in, make self-care a priority. And then as you're doing these practices, I want you to note any positive, changes, add in more practices when you feel ready. And then the most important part of all this, of course, is to be kind to yourself because you deserve it. You're learning how to practice and apply these self-care techniques to your life. So let's look at physical self-care. There are a few different, just inexpensive ways listed that you can start to practice physical self-care. Work out and find ways to stay active. Eat well-balanced meals with the occasional treats. Set and follow times for work and rest. So also boundaries. That's how you achieve any one of those. Social self-care. Maintain communication with a friend or family member at least once a day. Get involved in a group or extracurricular club, reach out to friends via text or online video chats. Mental, emotional self care. So I kind of combine those two here, but practice meditation to avoid information overload. And, Ty at the foundation actually has done a great job of helping us, practice some meditation, 1 minute meditation at our desks. And so that we just take a second, reorient, and just really practice refocusing our energy in that moment and becoming intentional about our steps. You can do it if you're frustrated or overwhelmed, but I find it to be really helpful. And although we did it one time as a group, I have since done it a few times. So thank you, Ty. Acknowledge your feelings and know they are valid. Write them down in a journal. So again, journaling was an option. Practice gratitude. A great way to promote self-care is to really think about what you have. Think of at least 3 things that you are thankful for every day. Let's look at intellectual self-care. You can listen to a podcast while you're driving or walking. You can watch a documentary and look up discussions online. Go to a local museum or library to stimulate your mind. Join a morning or evening yoga class and dedicate time for self-reflection. Go to your place of worship. It doesn't have to be a church, although it could be. Use meditation to practice mindfulness and intention. So those last 3 are spiritual self-care options. And then lastly, financial self-care. Actually, I don't think this is the last one, but bear with me. Commit to a vacation. Begin by setting small budget goals. Set up a savings account and have part of your check automatically deposited into it. Keep tabs on your daily income and expenses. Those are ways to take care of your financial wellness. Those are self-care objectives for your finances, which is really neat. Next, we have environmental self-care. And so there's a lot of different options for environmental self-care, because when we're talking about your environmental self-care, we're not just talking about the outdoors. We're not talking about nature. We're talking about your environment, the room you're in, the space you're in, the house you're in, the social circle you're in. So to practice environmental self-care, you can declutter your work or home environment. You can monitor your technology time to avoid overstimulation. You can use recyclable grocery bags and recycling. You can give blood at the Red Cross or a local blood drive to engage your community. That is, environmental in your community. Light a candle with your favorite scent just to improve the smell in your environment. Find ways to volunteer in the community. Take out old clothes and goods to donate to charity. Spend intentional time in nature observing your environment, and take a walk instead of driving. So not only are you promoting your own self-care environmentally by taking a walk, that's your physical wellness, but you're also looking at helping the environment while you're doing that. So self-care can manifest in many ways, and sometimes it can mean enjoying a cozy night alone, but other times it can be asking for help when life gets down. So I want to just mention, and kind of a disclaimer for this presentation, that if you are experiencing severe or distressing symptoms that have lasted 2 weeks or more, such as difficulty sleeping, appetite changes that result in unwanted weight loss or fluctuation, struggling to get out of the bed in the morning because of your mood, difficulty concentrating, loss of interest in things that you usually find enjoyable, inability to perform usual daily functions and responsibilities, please don't wait until your symptoms are overwhelming. You can talk about your concerns with your primary care physician, who can then refer you to a mental health specialist if needed. But please seek professional help if your feelings are becoming overwhelming. And also know that you are welcome to reach out to the Missouri Mental Health Foundation, and we can help coordinate those resources in your area in Missouri. So we do have a directory for different mental health providers across the state. All right, about to close out. We're looking at our resource page here. Up top, you can see our address, phone number, and website. So take a picture, write it down real quick if you'd like, but we would love to hear from you and engage with you outside of Real Voices. But just a few last minute things. We ask that you visit our webpage so that you can take a look at some of those events that I listed in the very beginning. We want you to follow us on social media. We want you to stay up to date with what we do. And Tanisha puts out our social media, and she does an excellent job of putting out inspirational and motivational and educational posts about mental health awareness and resources and whatnot. We ask that if you want to stay up to date with the Respect Institute and learn how to become a speaker, check our webpage. We're going to be posting a website soon for that specific reason. And then we're going to be having some trainings and upcoming literature that we're going to send out, e-blasts, which are just emails forwarded to you guys. So sign up, come see us, reach out to us and sign up. Request a speaker or presentation topic through our webpage. That will be upcoming. We don't have that feature yet, so you're welcome to just do the contact us form. Learn more about donating to the Missouri Mental Health Foundation. You can also visit our page. We also thank you for any consideration. And consider submitting your artwork to this year's Director's Creativity Showcase. We would love to have more submissions. We had well over 200 last year, and of course, we want to break that record again this year. So just again, I want to thank you all so much for the opportunity to present to you all and talk about different ways of self-care. If you have any questions that you think of following this presentation, you can direct message us on social media at Missouri Mental Health Foundation on Facebook, or you're welcome to send us an email and we will be in touch. But thank you so much for joining us to learn about self-care. The foundation thanks you. The Real Voices, Real Choices Conference thanks you. And I thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your conference.